How did I get there? I had no desire to read my Bible, no desire to sing or worship to God, no desire to go to church. It was all out the door. It was like my God knower was just not there. Never even thought of a word like that before. But yet there was just no desire. I felt like depressed. And me, always the optimist, full of life, excited. The whole life purpose seemed to go out the door. It was no fun. I could care less. I only saw the negative and not the positive. And you wonder, how does that even happen? Well, today's show title is My COVID Breakthrough. I had no idea. And what happened, I went to a conference and had a great time, this prophetic conference. The first day was half a day. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday was about 12 hours each day, where I even during the breaks still drove home and was very busy and very active and worked cooking meals, taking care of animals, doing ministry. So there were no breaks for 12 hours straight. Then that Friday was a half day, and that next day there was an event in my house. Like packed, right? My friend that sat next to me, who I dearly love, was not feeling so good for those last 3 days at all. No energy, just kind of dragging, kind of a headache, not feeling too good. Nothing dawned on us. We didn't think about anything because we were the ones that were fine and good and excited about life. But then the next day, on Sunday, there was a headache. And I usually don't get headaches. And it was different. It was kind of in the front. It was a little bit different. There was a headache. And then there was a cold sweat out of nowhere. I was like, at 8 o'clock in the morning, why is this happening? I dismissed it all. Chose not to go to church that day because I had had church for 6 days straight and was just going to clean out a dust barn. 3 hours of dust clouds all around me. Was not a smart thing. Then the next day, my friend called me. She says, Barb, I am so sorry. I have COVID. And I was like, oh, no big deal. We'll be fine. We're going to pray for you. It's going to be all good. Just moved on. And the next day, I started wanting to sleep. And there was like this pressure on my chest that I just could not get rid of. And I cried out to God. I said, God, take this pressure away from me. And I'm not kidding you. It left. It was just gone. But after that, I thought I better should take one of those home COVID tests. And it showed I was positive in COVID. Oh my goodness, bummer. Well, I'm not going to get it bad. It's fine. Just move on, right? Then I wanted to sleep. And the aching from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet was so bad. And I called my mentor. I said, pray for me. Couldn't talk because the coughing was so much. And he prayed for me. I'm not kidding. All aching was gone. I looked up to the Lord. I said, Lord, I know I said if I get a light case of COVID just to get a nice immune system, I'm okay. But what was I thinking? I should have never even thought that way. But help me right now. The aching went completely away. Now, why didn't I pray for the whole thing to all leave? I don't know. I just prayed for symptoms. I was in bed, day 3 to day 6, day and night. I would get up at 7 in the morning and be back by 8 a.m. in the morning. Sleep, sleep, and sleep more. All I wanted to do was nothing and sleep more. Everything was incredibly overwhelming. Music was too much. TV was too much. Standing up was too much. My Great Dane kept wanting to play and put his face right in my face while in bed, and it was the most annoying thing. I got mean even, pushing things away. It was tough. And finally, when I thought there was a better day, because with COVID, there is these half-day moments that you feel good, and you start doing things, and you think you've had the worst. You don't know that's not the end of it. I missed God. The joy went completely out of my life. And I kept saying, God, I want my joy back. And I don't know how. All I want to do is quit life, quit ministry, quit everything, and just die. And I'm like, where did that come from? How did I get there? The moment you thought it would get better, what I didn't realize at the time, but with COVID, there is a fatigue that sets in later on. And for me, that came later. Now there was fatigue and tiredness. Now I had COVID for 8 days. I laid in bed, and the moment I woke up, I couldn't breathe. It was gasping for air. It was a full struggle. And I cried out downstairs with my husband, who was now sleeping in the other room, "Get me to the ER now." And he came up. The moment I stood up, I was so incredible dizzy, I couldn't even function anymore. So I was gonna take a shower. I was gonna put on makeup of me, the vain girl that has it always together. Everything went out the door. Just got dressed. No hair done, no makeup done, and we left. And as we were driving to the hospital, I was just at air. It's like you were on 1/3 of air instead of on a full, fresh breath of air. It changed everything. When we got to the ER, there were plastic rooms put together outside. And as I stood there and couldn't even walk, they put me in a wheelchair. They brought me to my corner. They took x-rays outside. They were super nice. They helped me where I needed help, but it took a long time. And guess what I did there the most? In that chair, outside, on the concrete, in a little plastic half room. I slept. Just like that. It must have been quite a scene, you know. I slept and slept. After 4 hours, the doctor came to me and he said, "You have severe dehydration. We took x-ray pictures from you outside. You have a pneumonia and you have low blood pressure. And you have COVID." Yeah, well, that was a surprise. Completely, I kind of expected it. All I wanted them was to fix it. They put an IV in my arm. And it turned out for me, you can't just stop using the bathroom with COVID. So I got completely dehydrated. Once the dizziness was away, it was a gift. And I looked up to God and I said, why? What is the benefit in this? Because I am not liking what I'm seeing at all. I was too sick to really deal with it. They put me on anti-inflammatory things. They put me on an antibiotic. They put me on different things. But I just want you to know, even if it seemed to help with one thing, it did not bring me back to the Lord. It did not want me to connect again. This wasn't the end of it. It helped with some things, but it did not help with the other. But next, I got an answer in how to fight COVID. Stay tuned and watch for the breakthrough. Barb TV is all about you getting the needs met that you have. Satan wants to steal, kill, and destroy your life, but Jesus wants to give you the abundant life. How do we do that? We have guests with stories, and God wants to do the stories again in your life. He wants to change your life, He wants to improve your life, and He wants you to have all the benefits. I got back from the hospital. I was able to walk to the car. That was amazing. Once, at least, I was not dizzy anymore. And I was glad I was getting help. I thought this would fix it. The medication they put me on, they did tell me I was put on a fluid diet, could not have any calcium, and I could not have any dairy products. So now from full dehydration, I was put on a liquid diet, and as me being a vegetarian, it made it even more complicated. My kids got me coconut, dairy-free yogurt. I took one bite and tossed the whole thing. It was just not, there's good ones and there is less good ones. So the challenge kept going, still not feeling good. It just kept going. And I got desperate because I wanted to start to live. I was losing so much time. I said, Lord, make this time up for me. I want it back. And then I told only a couple of people, and I wondered if I just let somebody know. And I cried out the next day to the Lord. We're now 2 weeks in, longer. And I cried out to the Lord. I said, help me. Help me. I don't know how to go on. I don't want to live. Help me. I don't know how to connect with you. Not even an hour later, a couple of hours later, a friend out of Montana, an old friend, calls me out of nowhere. And she says, Barb, I heard you have COVID. How are you? I couldn't even talk, had no voice, was coughing the whole time still, and just looked miserable. And it was clear. And she says, I want you to take these supplements. And I'm like, who cares, But she wanted me to take these supplements. And I went and I got the supplements after I no longer was contagious. And when I got these supplements, I was like, man, this is expensive stuff. But I took what I was told. And I am not kidding you. But only within 1 hour, I was off the couch. The coughing was still there. The breathing issue was still there. But the will to live was back. It's like there was a chemical imbalance in the brain that is caused by COVID that all of a sudden took a complete switch. I was able to live. My optimism was back. I was able to move. I started taking small, tiny walks, even if it was hard to exercise my lungs. Everything switched that moment. And I am like, wow. Then I got angry. I got angry with the hospital. I got angry with the medical field. I got angry with those that where the COVID came from. I got angry with the entire United States because why didn't they give the supplements out? I was angry with everyone. And I took a walk. And I had to be little walks, remember? And I complained to God about this. And I said, God, this is so unnecessary. And guess what he told me? He said, Barbara, in my Dutch name, he said, Barbara. And he said, I don't want you to focus on what you cannot do, but I want you to focus on what you can do. And then I realized Jesus lived during the Roman Empire. He had no choices. They had no help. And yet he did not focus on what he could not do, but he focused on his mission, his calling, and why he was created to be. And today I need to tell you, I have shared that list of supplements with so many people that changed and helped me. And it has helped these other people too, even helped one person to get out of the hospital. So it is not just me, it makes a difference. And I am excited to tell you, even if we live in a pandemic, even if there is these moments you don't know what to do, even if COVID brings out of you everything that is underlying factors already in your life, like people you have been upset with, or people that you were frustrated with, or things that you don't know how to fix that is just sitting there. It brings it to the forefront, and you have to cry out to God with that, saying, I surrender, help. That is actually becoming a breakthrough in your life and helps you to stand and up and make a difference and deal with the elephant in the room that even nobody knows about, that could be there for years like it was for me, but it makes a season shift. It changes the moment, and it will help you to start living more excited, more passionate, more serious, and to stop more in a bigger calling than you've ever had before. And it is a COVID breakthrough, if you've had COVID or not. But still, there was one thing I asked the Lord. I said, why? You took the pressure away. You took the aching away. I should have asked for the rest. But why did I get this sick? The answer was quite different than I anticipated. Because that's the moment I heard the Lord say, rest. And I'm like, rest? Well, this is sure a crummy way to get rest, to be that sick, because I can't do anything, right? And he said, rest. And then I realized there were so many things that I was doing that were not necessary. There were so many things that had been overworked, overdoing too much, over busy that I no longer needed to do. And I canceled a class I signed up for that I had paid money for. I canceled it because it was wasting my time. I canceled several groups like WhatsApp that kept texting me like 10, 20 times a day that I was really not involved with, and I canceled it. So I started eliminating things so I could start stepping into that rest that the Lord had for me and in how to move forward with that. You might think it's absolutely insane, but today I am actually thankful that I had COVID. And you're like, why? And because it gave me such breakthrough. And right now, I am not relying on me anymore, but I rely on Him. And I can tell you, I was like, Lord, I still want to breathe better. And then a person showed up on my doorstep while I was in my jammies and not the best looking that day. And she brought me something that was a lotion. And I'm like, really? She says, put this on your chest. And I looked at her like, yeah, right. Are you kidding me? But she was very serious. She had brought me this bottle of lotion, handed it to me, and told me to put it on my chest. I listened. I put it on. And then the next morning, I was able to get my first breath of fresh air after 2.5 weeks. It was 500% better. I sit in front of you right now, only a couple of weeks later, about 2 months down, and I can breathe full air. I want to teach you next how to step into that rest.
Do you hear God speak? Hearing God's voice can change your perspective on everything. It changes the course of your life. Learn how to break the obstacles and words that hold you back. Looking to dive deeper in your relationship with God? To activate the person you were created to be. Empower a Champion can jumpstart you to hear God speak. Join us for a free 3-day challenge at empowerachampion.com.
During the time when I had pneumonia and COVID, it was interesting when people call you and they say the things that you're like, why are you telling me that? One person told me, she says, you have a pneumonia, you will have scar tissue on your lungs forever. You will not be feeling right for at least another year. And I would, my typical me, words make an impact. It says it in James 3, verse 5 and 6, and I would tell him, I am not accepting that. And it made people mad. They got angry because they saw me as arrogant, hard-nosed, and stubborn. But they were speaking curses over my life. I wasn't going to put up with that false labeling. And look at me now, completely healed. A full breath of fresh air, no coughing. And this has only been less than 8 weeks. I was down for 3.5. Wow, that is my God. But the Lord told me, why am I dealing with this? I said to the Lord, He says, because you're not getting rest on your own. And this is just not rest in sitting, but this was for me to rest in Him. And I started looking up the word rest. And as I looked at rest, right before they went into the promised land with Joshua, they were told to rest as they went into the promised land to conquer. Just resting doesn't necessarily mean sitting down, doing nothing, and laying there. No, my friends, resting means that you start to rely on God and not on yourself. That you live life and let Him lead instead of walking in front of the horse with a little carriage. You start stepping into what He has for you. And I told the Lord, I am such a doer. I am such an impatient person. I'm such a runner. I don't know how to do it. But then He started showing me by eliminating things out of my life. Then He started showing me in the scriptures how to step into that. And even today when we're filming so many shows, I'm relaxed and I'm rested because it's no longer my responsibility It is His, and I follow Him. When you're in a storm in your life, it is a challenge. And it seems so simple to keep your eyes on Jesus, to keep your brain on Him instead of all the turmoil around you. Did you know that today, in the middle of a pandemic, it is going to be the biggest revival ever? It is the biggest breakthrough ever. There are the biggest changes. Why? Because you were created to live in such a time of this with a calling on your life. So how do you rely on Jesus instead of what you see all around you? Psalm 91, I call it my COVID medicine. I'm only going to read a little bit, but I want you to catch the words. It says it all. In verse 1, when you abide under the shadow of Shaddai, you are hidden in the strength of God Most High. I told you I was no longer able to abide. And COVID is known that you see weird things. COVID is known that it does something to your brain later on. COVID is known that you're fighting demons, which I did. All these weird things 2-3 weeks later showed off and just popped up in my brain and weird stuff. And I commanded them to get out and leave, and they did. And that happened for like 3 days in a row. And when I asked other people, they had experienced the same thing as I had. But then I started saying, Lord, I'm coming back. Once I took the supplements, once I cried out to God, once everything was brought with me, within just a couple of days, everything changed. And it says here, He is the hope that holds me and the stronghold to shelter me. You run, He will help. You cry out, He comes. And I will say a little more here in verse 14. Because you loved me, delighted in me, and have been loyal to me, my name, I will greatly protect you. I will answer your cry for help every time you pray. That is for you, my friend. And you will feel my presence. And I feel Him today, and so can you. I will deliver you and bring you honor. I will satisfy you with a full life, not a stopped life, and with all that I do for you. For you will enjoy the fullness of my salvation. Well, I read this and it all made sense, but it still didn't teach me quite how to step into that resting point. Hebrews 4 gives the answer for that. Now, the promise of entering into God's rest is still for us today. And most people will fail to experience this, like even the Israelites did, because they rely on the giants they see in the lands. They rely on the problems they see in the land instead of looking at God and His mysteries that are going to be fulfilled. Then it says in verse 3, for those of us who believe, faith activates, there it is, the promise, and we experience the realm of confident rest. Faith activates. What do you need to do? Is to start to hear, to start to believe, to imagine what the Lord is going to do for you. It will activate it because of the hope that is inside of you for what God wants to do. What does that activate? It activates rest. So, I want you to close your eyes. Just close it for a moment. And I want you to just drop your shoulders and take in a breath of fresh air and just release it. Now I want you to breathe in the presence of the Lord and just release it. Do you remember that it said in the Bible that Jesus breathed on them and 50 days later the Holy Spirit came? That is for you right now. So now I want you to keep those eyes closed and I want you to look at Jesus. And I want to hand for you whatever is your biggest burden and just give it to Him. Wow. And then release it. You have given it over. Now I want you to trust Him with COVID. I want you to trust Him with learning to rest. I want you to trust Him with fear. I want you to trust Him with all that and give it to Jesus and surrender that to Him. And that, my friend, is how you step into that rest. It says a little further in 6, yet the fact remains that we still have the opportunity to enter in the faith rest life and experience the fulfillment of the promise. For God still has ordained the day for us to enter. It's your job to enter that in call today. For it was long afterwards that God repeated it in David's words. If only today you would listen to his voice and do not harden your hearts. Now, if this promise was fulfilled when Joshua brought the people into the land, it says it here for you in verse 10. As we enter into God's faith rest life, we cease from our own works, just as God celebrates his finished works and rests in them. My friend, when you start resting in the Lord, when you start trusting him more, your joy comes back. I know some of you are saying right now, Barb, what were these supplements that you took? I wonder if it will help me. Go to our website and contact us at 855-515 or 5550, or go to barbtv.org and put it in the prayer box or wherever you want. We want you to experience the rest, the joy, and the peace that the Lord has given me. And I know when you do what he says, his promise will show that to you too. Contact us. God loves you, and so do I. The passion is back.
Yeah, that moment in time kind of divides my life into before Timothy and after Timothy. It was just really unexpected, and I was unprepared for it. Hospital, kind of their cutoff is 20 weeks. So,
Wow. So what
yeah,
would that
unfortunately not. Yeah, they didn't really consider him human because he was less than 20 weeks. So I left the hospital that day with the understanding that I could come back for a service for him. And later when I called to inquire about that service, they said, oh, we're so sorry, I don't know who told you that, but we do it every month, and parents are not allowed to attend because they didn't want to handle all the different religious beliefs.